8 years ago, Athens was abuzz as it prepared to host the world's most famous sporting tournament and bring the Olympic Games back to their spiritual home. Now many of the venues built for the 2004 Games lie deserted. With weeds pushing through the cracks and rubbish piling up, they stand as a monument to Greece's shattered economy and the catastrophic overspending of the pre-recession years.
Every time an Olympic Games comes up for site bidding, cities and countries pour and promise billions of dollars to create venues and bend to the will of the International Olympic Committee. But that subtle IOC blackmail could be on the verge of being passé, and maybe we have soccer to thank for it. That and much more from the stick and ball courtside. Welcome back to MidPoint, noted sports business analyst, attorney, deal maker, and a great friend as well, the CEO of Horrow Sports Ventures, Rick Horrow. Rick, good to see you again, my friend.
Thank you for the noted. I appreciate that. I was waiting very carefully for that intro. It passes the test. Let's continue.
Let us continue then. When you look at what we just saw here with the pictures, and this is all over the internet now, of all the venues past Winter Olympics, specifically Winter Olympic, but a lot of summer ones as well, the venues are simply overrun with weeds. They have been caught in wars, and a lot of this money simply goes wasted when it comes down to spending money on the Olympics. Now the Olympics may have to move because of the 2022 World Cup being held in Qatar. Is this something that we have to look at now, that maybe the Olympics is not really, in essence, what people want to bring to their country and spend that kind of money just to see it wasted?
I am not an Olympic apologist, but I do think that it is very important we continue the tradition, but done in the right way. So weeds, wars, wasted. Yeah, Sarajevo. Yeah, Athens, which is summer, by the way. How about Sochi? It is a summer resort holding Winter Olympics, and now you see some weeds there. How about the Bird's Nest in Beijing and the Chinese Olympics as well? Spend unlimited amounts of money, but don't worry about your legacy. That's the defining difference between the successful Olympics and the ones that are not. Alan Rothenberg and the LA Olympics in the United States in '84, a monument to using existing facilities. How about the ones in London? How about the ones in Sydney? How about the ones in Vancouver in 2010? So I'm not prepared to extinguish the Olympic torch. I'm just suggesting it needs to be done the right way.
Well, that comes to the point here then. Aren't national economies, now global economies, simply getting to a point where a lot of these countries can't afford it? I mean, look what happened in Rio, for crying out loud. You got people there who are living in slums within a stone's throw of many of these venues here. So it simply becomes a waste of money to a lot of these countries.
Well, remember, Rio World Cup and Olympics is apples and, let's say, guavas. The bottom line is in a couple of years, they will host the Olympics, and you should have learned from some of the transportation issues around the World Cup that it's hard to get from Rio to Curitiba or to Manaus or to Brasilia. And all of those places will not be part of the Olympics themselves because the Olympics are confined around Rio. So let's look at that as an isolated instance, but let's also understand that the countries that have to build massive infrastructure in order to qualify for the games better make sure that infrastructure has a dedicated, committed use after the games are over. If it doesn't, then the wasted opportunity leads to some very significant downside budget waste issues themselves.
Does it make sense to bring an Olympics to places like New York City, Washington, D.C., and others here in America that are always rumored as being the next port of call?
Well, I personally had a hand in the Olympic plan in New York, by the way, small one. Michael Bloomberg had a bigger one, as you know, Dan Doctoroff as well. And they, frankly, did a wonderful job of maximizing existing facilities, and Chicago after that. The problem was the IOC and USOC were embroiled in a big controversy, so no U.S. city was going to win anyway. Now Washington and Boston and L.A. and San Francisco all have plans which are talking about dedicated uses. By the way, Washington may be a favorite, and one of the reasons why is that the Redskins may talk about using that facility as well as the MLS soccer team after the Olympics are over. So it's all about legacy.
Rick, do you really want to deal, though, with the IOC? Because let's face it, there's an awful lot of strong arming and blackmail that's gone on in that organization for many years.
Well, strong arming and blackmail, but I think a lot of it has been exposed in Salt Lake, and a lot have been exposed, frankly, in a lot of these other processes. So when you deal with monolithic industry and a significant amount of impact that they have, you have to get deals done. And I'm not justifying a lot of what's happened, but I think the microscope is a lot clearer today than it was, let's say, 10 years ago.
We have learned who the power is here when the World Cup wants to move in 2022, right? we know who carries the big money.
By the way, people took the, yeah, exactly, and people didn't read the memo that it's pretty darn hot in Qatar in the middle of July in any circumstance. So if they move it to January, don't look now, but that is the Winter Olympic time. So here is where a cataclysmic battle comes.
Talk about another strong-arm organization, FIFA, but we could go off on that for a couple of hours. Hang tight here because we will be back later on this hour when a Subway commercial becomes a point of contention over sexism and Halloween. And after the break, what would be the NFL's incentive to change how they do business when fans show up no matter the controversy? Rick Horrow's back with us and a whole lot more when MidPoint continues.